All right, everyone. It is now 3:03 p.m. Eastern Time, so we are going to move forward and get started. So first, we'll start with introductions. Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Duncan. I will serve as your moderator during this evening's webinar, so I will be speaking and also facilitating the question and answer portion of our time together. So a bit about me, this is the start of year 7 for me at NYU, working here in Res Life. Prior to NYU, I worked at the University of Georgia for a period of time in Res Life as well. So here in Res Life, I am a central assistant director. So essentially, I oversee all of the buildings that house our first year students, and I supervise the professional staff members that manage each individual building community within those first year buildings. So I will toss it over to Chloe to go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. This is Chloe. I'm a residence hall director here at Alumni and 7th Street. I oversee 2 of the residence halls. Similar to Christina, I also have just celebrated my 7 years here at NYU. And also like Christina, I also worked at the University of Georgia for a little bit of time. As the residence hall director, my primary role is to supervise the building leadership team that manages all of the building operations between Alumni and 7th Street. I'm also going to toss it over to Nick.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nick. I'm the Residence Hall Resource Manager, also at Alumni and 7th Street. I've been with NYU professionally. I'm actually, I think, a week out from my 1-year mark, but I did do my undergrad here in the College of Nursing. As the Resource Manager, most of what I oversee is the operational needs of the building, coordinating facilities, and overseeing the Resource Center.
Wonderful. Okay, so just briefly, I can tell by the questions coming in that folks have found the question and answer box. So you should see that in a small window on your screen. Please feel free to drop questions in that box as we move through the presentation. We will have time for questions where I will pull questions from what you all are submitting to us. Additionally, this webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted on our website following this so that folks can review it. Please share with any fellow students that they can access it on that website. We will also email the recording out to students. So just a really quick overview of how we plan to spend our time together this evening. We will start by talking about the move-in process overall, as well as parts of the experience for students living in hall. We will have a question and answer session based on that information. Then we will move into the portion of the webinar that is specifically dedicated to the experience of students who need to quarantine with us in the residence hall. So if you or your student, you do not fall into the quarantine category, you can feel free to drop off the call once we begin that portion of the webinar. So at this time, I will pass it over to Chloe.
Thank you, Christina. On behalf of the Residence Life and Housing Services offices, we would like to welcome you to your future home away from home. To our returning students, welcome back. To our new students, welcome to NYU, your new community. You are about to join thousands of undergraduate and graduate students who call NYU housing their home. We recognize the challenging times that we are facing, but look forward to welcoming each of you into a safe and positive living environment. Maintaining your safety and the health of everyone in the NYU community in the coming academic year is a mutual responsibility. We must all work together to keep each other safe. Living in housing offers you amazing opportunities that will make your college experience one you will never forget and may never want to leave. Our buildings provide more than a place to sleep. They give you a community of your peers and a network of staff to help you during your university life.
So while each of our residence halls have their own culture and personality, they all offer opportunities to participate in programs and activities designed to help you connect with your peers and have meaningful conversations. Each hall has a passionate faculty, professional staff, and student leader team equipped with knowledge and skills to help you make the most of your time in the residence halls. Our building team is looking forward to making virtual connections with you all and supporting you while you transition into your new fall housing.
And you may, of course, be wondering what your room looks like. Amenities provided for each resident are a twin XL bed, a desk chair, a dresser, and a designated closet space. Rooms also come with a trash and recycling bin. The university is pleased to share floor plans for the residence halls as well. Please note that these are not drawn to scale, and any perceived amenities or room configurations are always subject to change. Floor plans are intended to provide a general understanding of location and basic layout within the building. In addition to these photos and floor plans, you can check out our virtual video tours and 360 room views on our departmental website. All first-year residence halls will also be hosting an Instagram live tour to showcase common spaces, amenities, and examples of typical room layouts. And there is more info on those to come.
Check your housing portal for your room assignment and roommate information. Information about your roommates and/or suite mates can be found on the application and payment status page of your application in the NYU housing portal, located in NYU Global Home under NYU Life on the housing forms card. First, you should visit www.nyu.edu, click Log In to the NYU Home in the top right corner of the screen, then search for Housing Forms and click on the Housing Forms/Go. Then click Access Application. Click the Reapplication and Room Selection tab on the top of the page. Once you click Continue on the center of the screen, scroll down, you should see the following screen, including name and email addresses of your roommates and/or suite mates. These steps are also outlined in one of your hall's emails. We ask you to reach out and work with your roommate or suite mate prior to arriving to campus to establish mutual agreements regarding COVID-19 transmission prevention behaviors. These will help you and those you share a living space with establish the rules of the road for your own domestic pod. Discussing your expectations and social distancing practices prior to your arrival will help create a safe and comfortable space for you and your roommates or suite mates.
So there are a number of partners that are involved in making sure that your residential experience goes smoothly. Each residence hall hosts a building leadership team that consists of a residence hall director, a residence hall assistant director, and a residence hall resource manager. All of these staff members work together to manage the day-to-day operations of the building, and you can find your building leadership team's contact information on your hall's webpage. Our faculty, fellows, and residents live in the residence hall and work closely with residence hall staff to set an educational tone in the residence hall and to design and implement a wide range of opportunities for students to interact with faculty members and to interact with one another. In addition to the professional staff and faculty, we're lucky to have a superb team of paraprofessionals that we call RAs, or resident assistants. Each RA serves as a resource and a guide for their community. They have many responsibilities, but mainly they ensure the safety and security of our halls and help you by building an engaging community. Within our halls, not only do we have highly qualified professional staff and student leaders available to address concerns and ensure a safe environment, we also partner with the Department of Public Safety to provide 24/7 security. You can contact the public safety desk in your hall's lobby for specific concerns that you may have. NYU public safety officers are also a great resource. Lastly, each residence hall hosts a dedicated team of facilities and housekeeping staff. This team is committed to keeping our entire building safe and maintained. While our housekeeping staff cleans all of our common spaces, it is the responsibility of each student to clean their room and clean their suites.
So we each play a role in maintaining a healthy and positive living environment in the residence halls. Here are several steps you should take to do your part as a member of our community. Wear a face covering that covers both your mouth and nose when you are outside of your suite or apartment and in public places of the residence hall. When you are able, please maintain a safe physical distance from others. This includes lounges and elevator use, when you visit the resource center to retrieve your packages, and while you are in other public areas of the building. We also ask that you wash your hands regularly, as it is one of the most effective ways to reduce the risk of spreading diseases. We also encourage you to use hand sanitizer when you are unable to wash your hands. As an additional safety measure, residential students will only have access to their assigned residence halls, and outside guests, NYU and non-NYU folks, will not be permitted to enter the NYU residence halls. Please remember that if you are not feeling well, contact the NYU Student Health Center through the online Student Health Center portal, or call them at 212-443-1414 1000 to schedule a virtual appointment with a healthcare provider. The Office of Student Conduct will be sending information to each NYU student about the student conduct policy, and you can access the Residential Life Handbook on the Residential Life website. There are some changes specific to COVID-19, so make sure you familiarize yourself with this information, even if you are a returning student. We plan to strictly enforce the new safety and health rules we are putting in place for the academic year of 2020 to 2021. A great deal is at stake, and you're observing the rules conscientiously, including your own health, the health of faculty, other employees, and fellow students, and the progress made in New York to reduce the spread of COVID-19. We will have little tolerance for repeated or serious lapses, and violating the safety rules can result in sanctions that include, but are not limited to, being unable to participate in in-person classes, being suspended, or possible removal from university housing. Together, we will keep each other safe. Safety cannot simply be imposed. Each of us has a hand in it and a responsibility to one another now. On this screen, you will find the recommended mailing address format. You should not include the residence hall name or NYU in the address label. Remember to address any packages sent to you with your legal or preferred name with the university. Please note, if you are living in Othmer Hall or Clark, you will need to put Brooklyn, New York in your address. If you are in a Manhattan Hall, you will need to put New York, New York. Anytime our Resource Center receives a package in your name, we log it for our records. You will receive an email from your Resource Center when your package has been logged. We will only accept packages from federal mailing services, meaning USPS, UPS, FedEx, etc. The Resource Center does not accept food deliveries such as grocery orders or restaurant deliveries. At least in the beginning of the year, the Resource Center in your building will be open for package pickup during slated hours each year. Please do not attempt to pick up your packages up outside of these times. Some students have already asked about mailing packages to the residence halls before arriving. Unfortunately, we can't accept deliveries or packages for you until after you move in. We simply don't have enough room in our mailrooms for the packages to accumulate before move-in.
As you prepare your belongings for move-in, we encourage you to pack light. Consider what items you will need to begin the semester and bring only those items with you. Consider waiting until you arrive to purchase access items as you settle into your new room and assess what you actually need to live comfortably. We recommend that the amount of belongings that you bring fit into one moving cart. The cart dimensions are 28 inches deep and 29 inches wide by 40 inches in length. Later we will discuss the 90-minute time window that you will have to complete your move-in process when you arrive. Leave behind any items that is considered a policy violation. This includes any outside furniture and anything that is considered a fire safety hazard. We also prohibit pets. If you have a medically related need for any of the prohibited items, including service or emotional support animals, please reach out to the Moses Center for Students with Disabilities to go through their approval accommodation process. It's also important to understand that NYU follows city, state, and federal law. No one under the age of 21 may bring alcohol or consume alcohol in the hall at any time. We also have strict guidelines in terms of smoking. Smoking is not allowed inside the hall or directly in front of the doors of the building. If you choose to smoke, you must smoke outside at a considerable distance from the hall's perimeter. This includes the use of e-cigarettes such as Juuls or vapes. There is no marijuana use or storage allowed in the halls, even if you have a medical prescription. The same is true for any other non-prescribed drugs. On your screen, you are just some of the items prohibited in the residence hall. You can find a more exhaustive list of what to bring and what to leave at home by visiting our tinyurl.com/NYU what to bring.
All right, so there's a lot of excitement surrounding move-in. So we are going to talk about a few things to consider before your assigned move-in day actually arrives. Then we'll move into talking through more of the process for actual move-in. So by now, new students should have already submitted their photo online for your NYU ID. And new students, we are referring specifically to incoming first-year students and new incoming transfer students. By this time, all students should have determined whether they will need to quarantine based on New York State guidelines and selected a move-in time slot based on that determination. You will not be permitted to check into your residence hall outside of your assigned move-in appointment slot. Please note that all new students must comply with the New York State and NYU immunization requirements. Students who have not submitted the appropriate documentation will not be permitted to check into university housing. The deadline for submitting those health forms have passed, so if you are unable to get that information in on time, please contact the NYU Student Health Center as soon as possible. And for more information, you should visit the NYU Student Health Center's website. Begin to pack and keep the bare necessities that we just shared with you in mind. Also think about who will accompany you to assist with moving your belongings. We will only allow one person to accompany you into the residence hall on your move-in day to assist with your moving process. Some other things to think about: we highly encourage you to bring minimal decorations for your space. With that said, if you choose to decorate, we ask that you pack blue painter's tape or 3M removable sticky tabs to hang items on your walls. Nails, screws, tacks, and other strong adhesive tapes may cause damage to our building, so we ask that you refrain from using them.
New students who have never before had an NYU card issued to them in any capacity, including high school program, summer school program, or summer resident program, should have uploaded a photo to the photoid.nyu.edu website. If you successfully uploaded your photo and it has been approved, an email will be sent to your NYU email address confirming the submission. You will pick up your new NYU card at your assigned residence hall during check-in. Students must bring a valid form of identification, i.e. a state's driver's license, a state photo ID, or passport to the residence hall in order to be issued an NYU card.
All students coming to NYU's New York campus must be tested and receive a negative result before being allowed in class or in any academic or administrative building. Students coming from or who have spent time outside of the tri-state area within the prior 14 days must be tested within 24 hours of their arrival to New York City, and then again 7 to 10 days later during the mandatory quarantine period. Testing will be available the day of move-in, so you can take care of this before you arrive at your residence hall if you want. Look for information regarding appointment scheduling from the Student Health Center. Students who have been in the tri-state area continuously for the previous 14 days must be tested no more than 14 days before they first expect to enter any NYU academic or administrative building. Test results, positive or negative, must be submitted to the COVID-19 prevention and response team. When you arrive at your residence hall, you will be greeted by an NYU staff member at the entrance who will confirm that you have arrived during your assigned time. The staff member will also ask you and your helper a brief set of health questions as a safety precaution before you are given access to the building. You and your guests are required to wear a face covering when you are inside of your residence hall and on campus. When you enter any NYU building, you will be greeted by a public safety officer who monitors the entrances 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These officers check every person entering our buildings to ensure they are NYU students. As a residential student, you will use your NYU ID to gain access to the halls by tapping through an electronic gate. Your assigned move-in day is the only day that you will be permitted to have one helper enter the residence hall. Don't be surprised when in the early evening of move-in day, an officer asks for your ID and will not permit guests to access into the building. We do this to ensure the safety of every student in the building. Please be aware that our no guest policy will be strictly enforced throughout the academic year. If you have trouble navigating your residence hall, we do recommend you reach out to a member of your professional staff, public safety, or your RA using the contact information posted on your floor. We'll be happy to point you in the right direction, but we ask that you not return to the Resource Center with questions on move-in day to reduce the amount of traffic in the lobby. There will be phone and virtual options posted to help you reach a staff member that can provide assistance. Please note that we do not have designated parking on campus. For those in need of parking, we'd like to share that Spot Hero is offering a 15% parking discount up to $20 for use on your assigned NYU residence hall move-in date. Use the offer code NYU2024 to reserve a spot in advance. Family and friends meetings will be taking place virtually on August 18th, 19th, 31st, and September 1st at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Here, your family and friends can learn more about your new home. Lastly, we encourage you and your guests to bring a water bottle. There will be water bottle filling stations in each hall.
So now on to some specifics about the move-in process. First and foremost, please review the confirmation email that you received when you signed up for your move-in appointment. Only arrive at your hall during your 90-minute check-in window. Every student, new students and returning students, must sign up for a move-in time. You are only permitted to bring one person with you inside of the building. If you drive your belongings to NYC, you will need to move your vehicle to a local parking garage immediately following unloading your belongings. You cannot park in front of your residence hall. You will need to check into your residence hall to obtain your room key, your NYU ID, that's specifically for new students, and to check out a moving cart. Remember, the resident should be the person to present a photo ID to check into their building and pick up their room key. Please pay attention to your hall's coming emails and signage that you will see around the building when you arrive for more instructions. For those individuals who will be arriving in a vehicle of their own, you should head directly to check-in to sign for your key. The rest of this move-in process is basically the same for everyone. So if you're arriving in a car, you can come in and you can grab your keys, unload your belongings, and you should move your vehicle as quickly as possible. Once you have your key, you can either begin taking your belongings upstairs or possibly wait in line for an elevator, physically distanced, of course. You will want to verify that you are in the correct elevator line if there is a line, as some residence halls have multiple elevators that take you to specific parts of the building. While we have moving carts available to help you transport your belongings, we also encourage you to bring your own dollies and carts, if that's an option for you. Patience is going to be key on move-in day, as there are several steps to the process and it will likely be hot and possibly raining that day. To help you through the day, please use the contact information posted around your hall if you have any questions that you need answered and to receive some support. Throughout the move-in process, remember to practice physical distancing and closely follow all posted signs and other guidance to support the health of our community.
There are a variety of apps that we recommend you download before your arrival at NYU to make your experience as smooth as possible. To participate in Fall Welcome, download the NYU Guide app to see a full list of events and schedules so that you can maximize your experience. NYU Mobile is a comprehensive app that allows you quick access to things like Albert, dining, campus map, virtual campus events, and more. It will also link you to another essential app, Safe NYU, which sends you important safety notices and instant access to campus safety resources. Finally, the Wellness Exchange app allows students to chat 24/7 with a licensed mental health professional in 6 different languages. NYU is full of resources to support you during your time with us, and these are a fantastic way to access them quickly and easily. And of course, follow us on social media.
So at this time, we're going to pause to take general move-in questions. I see a lot of questions specifically referring to the quarantine period in the chat. So we are going to hold off on responding to those. As I mentioned, moving forward from here, we'll talk more specifically about quarantine, right? So let's focus specifically on general move-in questions. Nick, maybe you can take this first question. Is furniture permitted in the residence hall? And we also have a specific question about whether students can bring their own refrigerator.
So the answer is yes and no. We do have an outside furniture policy. Any non-upholstered furniture that is under, I want to say it's 80 square or 80 cube inches of dimensions. So think like a small night table, a small shoe rack is allowed. Anything that is upholstered, so if you are thinking like a beanbag chair, something like that, is not allowed. Mini fridges are absolutely allowed, so long as they still fit that requirement, that 80 cubic inches. But if you're in an apartment style hall, you are going to have a full-size fridge, so consider before you bring, and definitely coordinate with your roommates before you bring any extra furniture. And that policy can be found if you just search NYU furniture policy. It's very, very detailed and laid out for you.
Thanks, Nick. So we are receiving some questions about access to the webinar and these slides following our presentation. The webinar is being recorded and the recording will be posted on our website by the end of this week. We will also email the webinar to students that are scheduled to move in over the next few weeks. So you will have access to all of this information again. We have another question. Does the 90-minute move-in window include testing? So the 90-minute move-in window does not include testing, and this refers to the quarantine move-in period and our traditional move-in period at the end of August. So you will not be barred from checking into the residence hall if you haven't been tested specifically in New York before you arrive. The 90-minute window is specifically for the student to move their belongings into their room. They will be able to leave the building following that to pursue testing on campus. And for folks who are interested in that information, they should check the NYU Student Health Center's website. We are also emailing information to students about that process, but there will be additional opportunities for students to be tested within 24 hours of their arrival to New York City. So the 90-minute move-in window specifically applies to the process of actually moving a student's belongings into the building. So Chloe, we have a question about laundry facilities. So in general, Chloe, do buildings have their own laundry room, and how much does it cost for a student to do their laundry?
Yes, laundry facilities are typically in the basement of your residence hall, and it costs $1 to wash and $1 to dry for the normal and delicate cycle. The cost for the power wash option or the extra rinse, heavy soil, and so forth is $1.40. At this time, no coins are accepted. Payment is through the Hercules Clean Pay mobile app. It's available in your app store. We just ask that you keep in mind physical distancing and our face covering requirements in mind. We want to make sure that we're in that space and you all are able to wash your laundry, but also keeping in mind that we want to be mindful of COVID-19. So if you catch yourself on your way down with laundry, please make sure that you have your masks. And then if you see that the laundry is a little bit busy, I would try to recommend finding another time to do your laundry. So it's going to be a bit of a work for all of us in the community, but we're all going to try to take appropriate measures in that space. Also, please remember to set a timer so that you can leave the laundry room during the wash dry cycle, but also you can allow others the access to the machine. So if your laundry is sitting, you know you don't want anyone to touch your laundry or move it, so kind of keeping a timer for yourself so you cannot forget.
Thank you, Chloe. So we have a question regarding returning students and immunization records. So the only students that need to submit their immunization records prior to their arrival for this move-in are new students. So that applies to our incoming first-year students or our new transfer students. So students that are returning that we're welcoming back to campus, that's not something that you need to worry about. So there are several questions specifically about testing. So I keep referring folks to the NYU Student Health Center because they are coordinating our testing efforts. So at any time, a student should reach out to our Student Health Center. You can Google NYU Student Health Center and go to their website. You're able to schedule visual appointments with them, but they also have a plan in place for students that are interested in being tested the day that they arrive in the city to move in. And they will be further communicating with students about testing as we move into the start of the semester. So those testing questions, yes, there will be the ability for students to be tested on campus. All of that is being coordinated, through our Student Health Center. All right, so there is a question about whether new students are able to pick up their NYU IDs when they arrive for check-in. Chloe, are you able to answer that question? Okay.
Sorry.
If you're speaking, you're on mute. Yep.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I did something to the machine. I'm sorry, what was the question?
New students picking up their NYU IDs when they come for check-in, where will they do that?
They will be able to do that. Actually, I don't have the answer. I don't want to give false information.
That's all right. It's no problem. I just don't want to be the person answering all the questions.
Right.
So if you are a new student and you submitted your ID photo ahead of time, so the deadline that we emailed to students and communicated was August 1st. So if you met that August 1st deadline, you will be able to pick up your NYU ID when you arrive to check in and in the same place where you were getting your keys. Right, so if you were not able to submit your photo ahead of time, we will have temporary IDs that we will issue to students. So everyone just needs to show up on move-in day with a form of photo ID to present to the staff in order to get your keys and get access to the building. So I will take another general move-in question in the chat. If folks hit traffic on their way into New York, or they have flight delay issues and miss their assigned move-in time, will they still be able to move in? If this happens to you or your family, we ask that you communicate with your building staff as soon as possible. So you'll find their contact information on our websites, and as well as an email that they are going to send to students at the end of this week so that you're able to reach out to them to let them know. And they will coordinate a time during that day when you are able to come into the building and check in if you missed your assigned window. We need everyone to do what they can to make sure they make that assigned move-in window, because we are not able to allow more students than we have planned for to move in during a specific 90-minute block. So folks that have travel complications as they're arriving that may lead to them may lead to them missing their exact time slot, we'll likely have to wait a period until traffic has died down and we have the appropriate amount of space in the building where we can admit folks to come into the building, right? So as much as possible, we need you to do your best to arrange your travel plans so that you're actually in the city earlier than you would need to be in the event that you have that type of situation, just to avoid a significant delay with you or your student being able to access the building. All right, so at this time, we are going to transition into focusing more on quarantine. So the remainder of this webinar, it will provide information for students that are spending the 14-day quarantine period on campus with us at NYU. So all are welcome to stay, but please feel free to exit the webinar if you have determined that you or your student will not need to be a part of this quarantine group and are no longer interested in the information that we're planning to share during this period. All right, so there is a lot of information on this slide and a lot to share. And as I mentioned, we will have another question and answer session after this, specifically related to quarantine and any other questions that are remaining in the chat that we haven't had a chance to get to. So as you are aware, the state of New York went through a very difficult period with COVID-19 spread last spring, and we have spent months bringing transmission down to lower levels. As a result, New York State is legally mandating a 14-day quarantine period for all of those who have spent time in states with high rates of COVID-19 prior to their arrival in New York. In an effort to keep each other and our surrounding community safe, NYU students are able to quarantine within the residence halls in order to fulfill the New York State requirements prior to the start of classes. While you're in quarantine, we expect that you remain within your suite or apartment for the duration of the 14-day period. You will only leave your suite or apartment to go to any necessary medical appointments, including COVID-19 testing. You will be able to pick up meals delivered by the university to your floor. Meals that you order at your own expense from an online delivery service such as Seamless, DoorDash, Grubhub, and packages that are delivered to the residence hall for you through those official mail carriers that Nick mentioned will also be delivered to your suite or apartment by a runner at set times of each day. Plan ahead to prepare for these 2 weeks. You will not be able to do laundry or go shopping, and you cannot visit friends or have guests. Guests includes other students who are quarantining within your residence halls. We will provide general purpose cleaning supplies. If you want something more specific or special, you should bring those cleaning supplies for yourself. You should know that we will have little tolerance for serious lapses or violating of safety rules, as Nick shared previously, and this may result in a student being unable to participate in in-person classes, being suspended, or possibly removed for the university. These types of lapses or offenses include students that are found outside of their suite or outside of their apartment at times or for reasons that are not authorized based on the information that I just shared. We recognize that this information may sound daunting, but as many of us here at NYU have had to quarantine, in the next slide, we want to share a few tips and suggestions to help you make the most of your time in quarantine. Also remember, friends and family members that are traveling from states on the New York State quarantine list to bring you to NYU and accompany you into the halls, please be sure that you are familiar with all of the New York State guidelines regarding quarantine and COVID-19. Friends and family cannot stay with the student in their residence hall.
This is a great opportunity to get to know NYU better and to engage with your future classmates through a variety of virtual events and resources that we have planned for you. NYU Welcome has planned hundreds of virtual events, including fitness classes, mindfulness sessions, residence hall meetups, game nights, and themed hangouts for you to get involved with. Get creative. Think about a writing project that you wanted to take on, music you wanted to learn, or a piece of art that you wanted to create. Delve into NYU professor Brian Stevenson's work, which led to his influential and groundbreaking book, Just Mercy, our selection for this year's NYU Reads. Also consider reviewing your course list and get a jump on your readings for class. Looking for a job this semester? Get a jump on things by visiting Wasserman Center's career services platform, Handshake, to check out employment opportunities. If you're looking to meet folks with similar interests, the Center for Student Life has over 300 student clubs for you to join. If you want to catch up on your favorite TV shows and movies, NYU offers free access to cable stations in the residence halls through Philo EDU, the Philo EDU app. The possibilities literally are endless. However you choose to spend this time, know that you are not alone. Sometimes we all need help. If quarantine is one of those moments, do not hesitate to ask. The Wellness Exchange, the Student Health Center, and the Res Hall staff, we are all here to support you when you need it. Please don't hesitate to contact Counseling and Wellness Services at 212-443-9999, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to talk to a professional. And just so you know, that number will also be listed on the back of your ID in case you forget. This period will be over sooner than you think. At the end, you will have made a real contribution to the public health and hopefully a difference in your own life. If only that you will have made it through and now you have a remarkable story to tell.
Okay, so we just shared a lot of information and there are still questions coming in through the chat, which is to be expected. So I will throw a few more questions to my colleagues. So Nick, we're getting some questions about the Resource Center and what supplies we offer students. So I wonder if you could share basically what we will distribute from the Resource Center specifically during the academic year and what that will look like, since as we've established during the quarantine period, students aren't able to walk downstairs to the Resource Center. So Nick, what sort of things do we distribute at the RC during our normal periods?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the most part this year, it's going to be toilet paper and trash bags are absolutely free. They will be available in hall. You can grab as much as you need, but we ask that you don't grab too much at a time to make sure other people in the hall also have access. And that's toilet paper and trash bags. We also process your mail and packages, and that's kind of the bulk of what we're offering you this year. Toilet paper and trash bags completely free. We will handle your mail.
Perfect, thanks, Nick. So Chloe, during the quarantine period, can students order Seamless?
Yes, students can order Seamless. You will be able to order meals at your expense from any online delivery service. But because you cannot leave your suite and/or apartment during the quarantine period, as it was mentioned earlier, a runner will be able to bring your delivery from the lobby to your room. But we ask that those orders, the runners are only here for a set time between the hours of 2 p.m. and 9 p.m. daily. So orders need to happen during that time frame. Orders arriving outside of that time, unfortunately, will not be accepted. Another thing that'll make it run a little bit smoother is please make sure to include your name and room number on the order. You must pay for the order in advance, including gratuity, and please keep in mind that you should limit the need to leave your suite or apartment during quarantine. So yes, you can order, and if it's during the time of 2 to 9, we will actually bring it directly to your door. Talk about DoorDash.
All right, so we have a question about how folks will know who their roommate is. I know we've suggested that folks start reaching out to their roommates now to begin having these conversations around physical distancing and practicing safe sort of practices while they're here with us. So Chloe, I am going to go back to that slide if you don't mind giving us a quick refresher. If I'm not sure who my roommate is, what website do I go to find that information? Chloe, if you're speaking, you're on mute. Okay, so it seems like maybe Chloe's having some technical difficulties. So if you are not sure who your roommate is, you can go into your NYU housing portal. That is the same place where you would have gone to submit your housing application, right? You can go in there and you will be able to see who your roommates or suite mates are if you have roommates, and you will be able to see their contact information so that you can outreach to them and begin to learn more about each other and start having these preliminary safety conversations that we've discussed. All right, so we spoke a bit about our guest policy. Nick, can you answer this question? Will I be able to visit my friends on my floor or within my residence hall during the quarantine period?
So unfortunately, the answer is no. During the quarantine period, guests of any kind, whether they be your next door neighbor or a friend from outside the university, are not allowed. You are quite literally required to be in your room. So unfortunately, no, can't even visit your next door neighbor during those 14 days. But on the bright side, you are doing a great public health service while you aren't seeing your friends, protecting yourself and them.
Great question, Nick. So we have a question about whether parents can spend the night with their students once they've checked them into the residence hall. So this is more connected to our general guest policy. Nick, are you able to answer that question for folks? If my parents bring me and move me in, would my parent be able to spend the night with me?
So again, unfortunately, the answer is no. Same kind of concept as before as going to see a friend. Parents and other guests will not be able to spend the night in the residence hall. However, we can permit them to assist you to move in that day. But at the end of the day, they do have to leave.
Thank you, Nick. So there's a question about package pickup. So the process for package pickup is different depending on whether you are part of the group that is quarantining or we are talking about the actual start of the semester. During the quarantine period, the runners that we mentioned that will be bringing the meals from the university, they will also bring your seamless order, as well as if you have groceries delivered from, let's say, a Fresh Direct, those are the same people that will bring any packages that are delivered to our resource center for you upstairs to your suite or to your apartment. And as a reminder, that is specifically for the quarantine period, as students are not permitted to leave their rooms. Once the fall semester begins, students would go down to the resource center where we receive the packages, and at that point they would be able to pick up any packages and any mail that has been delivered to them, right? So 2 different processes. Okay, so Nick, we have a question about addresses. I know we spoke about that earlier, so I will go back to that slide. Would you mind taking a second to explain again how students and their families should address packages to be delivered to the residence hall?
Yes, absolutely. So you can see it on the screen right here. Differs a little bit between Brooklyn and Manhattan residents, but First line of the address is going to be your name. We do ask that you use whatever name you have registered with the university. So if you have a preferred name with the university, we ask that you use that. If you don't, put your legal first name on there in addition to your last name. Your street address for your residence hall. So if, for example, you're in Alumni Hall, it would be 33 3rd Avenue. The apartment number is going to be your room number. Most buildings, it'll be a number and a letter. So you might be in 11J in Alumni, you might be in 617 in Reuben, for example. You just want to make sure you put that either as room 617, apartment 617, that little word doesn't matter much, but you do want your room number on there. And then again, if you're in Brooklyn, Brooklyn, New York, and then the zip code, or New York, New York, and then the zip code.
Okay, Chloe, we have a question. Are students allowed to bring their own microwave?
Hello. Yes, students are allowed to bring their own microwaves, but similar to what if you search the NYU what to bring, it will talk about the different wattages and different things to kind of look out for. But yes, you are allowed to bring your own microwave. But similar to also what Nick said, make sure you're reaching out to your suite mate or roommate to make sure that we kind of don't have so many items in the space unless you all personally want your own microwave.
Nick, we have a question about how many helpers students are allowed to have on move-in day. So if I show up with both of my parents, how will that work when I arrive at the residence hall?
So again, it is only one helper on move-in day. That goes for if you're moving in on the 18th or the 19th or the 31st and 1st, both sort of like windows. Only one helper in the building with you. On the bright side, if you brought both your parents and you drove in, you do have someone to wait with the car. So that would be great, but only one person is actually allowed inside the building with you.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, so sorry, just scanning some of the questions really quickly. So we have questions about roommates that may be coming from a state where they are both expected to quarantine. So we are not, according to New York State guidelines, we are not permitted to allow students to quarantine within the same bedroom. So within a suite or apartment, suite mates can quarantine because they have separate bedrooms, but not in the same bedroom. And so students that are in a position where they have a roommate and both will need to quarantine, our housing office will be in contact, and we are offering temporary spaces on campus that are either within your assigned residence hall or a neighboring residence hall for students to temporarily quarantine in that space to make the process as simple as possible. So great question. No, you cannot quarantine within the same bedroom. Okay. Chloe, we have a question about Wi-Fi. Is Wi-Fi or wireless internet available in the residence halls?
Yes, we do have Wi-Fi, and when you get into the hall, you'll be able to look at it, and there's be an NYU Wi-Fi server, and you will log in with your login information that you would, like your email address. Also, if you have things like a Roku, or if you're a gamer, at the Resource Center, you'll be able to get a special Wi-Fi to help you connect your TV to that type of system to kind of, we try to do it to save bandwidth, so there's a few separate options. But also along with that, you have to make sure that you register those items on the NYU IT website so they can make sure to notice your system in order for it to actually work. So yes, there will be Wi-Fi provided.
Thank you, Chloe. So we have a question about whether you are required to use a moving cart when you arrive. If you are able to provide your own cart or dolly, or if you're bringing items like a suitcase that has wheels that can simply be rolled upstairs, that is absolutely fine. You are not required to use the moving cart that we provide. We just want to make sure that folks are clear that we provide one moving cart per student to assist during their process. So yes, if you are able to bring your own dolly, please do. So Nick, is there a place where folks can find dimensions of their room? I know that's a question that comes up fairly often. If a student is looking for more detail about their room, where should they go?
So exact dimensions, unfortunately not, but you can Google NYU floor plans and your building will come up. You can find your exact room on your exact floor and it'll give you a pretty good picture. They don't have dimensions, but it will give you a pretty good picture of what it looks like. Other places you can go to find out more about your room is if you go again to that housing portal. So you're going to home.nyu.edu and then housing, and then to your actual little application, you'll have a bunch more information about your residence hall, or excuse me, not your residence hall, your actual room, including the lighting, what way your window faces actually, and carpet versus normal flooring, et cetera, et cetera. So Google NYU floor plans in your building, you can find your exact room on a floor plan, or you can go into your housing portal once more.
Thank you, Nick. So for students that are moving into the residence hall during our traditional move-in period, so that is August 31st and moving into September, the expectations that we shared regarding quarantine do not apply to those students as far as once your quarantine begins, staying in your room. So we're getting a lot of questions around during the August 31st and September 1st period. Will students that moved in those days be required to stay in their rooms? The answer is no. That information is specifically for students that are moving in earlier to fulfill their quarantine requirements. Okay, so let's take one last question for the good of the group. Okay, so we got a question about packages. Nick, can you reiterate, are we able to accept packages for students prior to their move-in date?
So again, unfortunately not. I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but you unfortunately can't order things before you arrive. We simply don't have the space. Our package centers are not as huge as you might think they are. But the day you move in, we can start taking things for you. So if you get here and you're like, oh, I forgot to bring X, Y, and Z, let me order it. As soon as you are in the building, as soon as you have keys in your hand, feel free to start ordering.
All right, so I said that was the last question, but I'll take one more specifically about quarantine. So there's a question, if my student has dietary restrictions, for example, if my student is vegetarian, will they be able to eat the meals provided by the university during the quarantine period? The answer is yes. Students were sent a survey where dining asked them to submit any dietary restrictions that they have so we can make sure that those needs are being met. Additionally, as we shared before, during quarantine, students will be permitted to order online at their own expense from services like Seamless, Grubhub, and as well as their own grocery orders. And we will have runners in the building that will be bringing those items up to the floor. Right, so it is 3:57. So I hope you're able to clarify some questions and some expectations for move-in. I recognize that we may not have been able to get to every question, especially questions that are very specific to certain buildings. I ask that you reach out to your building leadership team directly for those more specific questions. The university has posted information regarding testing, regarding move-in. A lot of this information, especially regarding our testing and quarantine requirements, are available posted on our website, but additionally, you can reach out to your building staff for that information as well. To conclude, we really want to wrap up that we expect, we hope, we require that all folks that will be entering our buildings during these move-in periods wear masks at all times, adhere to all signs posted related to physical distancing and keeping space from one another, keeping enough space between themselves and our staff. And we just want to make sure that folks understand that the expectations and the requirements that we have stated for students regarding wearing masks and face coverings when they're in our building, that also applies to the one guest that will be permitted to enter the building with the student. So with all of that said, we look forward to welcoming you to campus, for some of you next week, for others at the end of the month. And a reminder, we each play a role in making maintaining a healthy and positive living environment in the residence halls, and it is all of our responsibility to keep each other safe. So this marks the end of the official webinar. The recording will be emailed to students and posted online as soon as it is available towards the end of this week. Chloe and Nick, do you want to say any official goodbyes?
I just want to say that we are very, very excited to see you all and to welcome you all and to get to know and work and learn and grow with you all. Please know that we're doing everything we can to make this a seamless experience, and we look forward to adding you to the Bobcat family.
Similarly, echoing those statements, can't wait to have students back on campus. You have no idea how much we are so excited to see you.
This concludes the official recording of the webinar. Thank you all so much for being here with us today, and we look forward to seeing you on campus.